All right, 8 minutes after 3. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for staying tuned into your trustworthy radio 95.1 Nigeria Info. And welcome to the midweek edition of the show. It's usually, for a lot of people, a special time on Nigeria Info because they kind of like look forward to the detailed conversations we have on Wednesdays, looking at some of the big stories, driving conversation that got people talking and doing some heads in, and so many of them to look at today with our guests. We usually have a special guest who joins us every Wednesday, Majid Dahiru. We call him Doctor. He's the tech team lead of Luxterra Leadership Foundation, and he's here with us today. Dr. Majid, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Delighted to have you join us.
Why did you filled up with
women?
Beautiful.
Blessed are you among women.
I'm blessed among women. I hope I'm safe. I feel like I'm being ambushed.
This is the safest
Really?
place you could be right now.
Indeed. You're in good hands, I promise you. Thank you so much for being here.
Very much.
Well, my name is Kimberly. Watchko call me Kim, the Oracle, the Digital Oracle, OTF, the fellow Chanya, one Madam Speaker, and Okurora, and someone said to add that. I'll say yes to them all. Somi, I don't think Somi is happy to be here, guys. But try and pretend. Just put a smile on your face.
I've been here since 6 a.m.
Why?
because I have to come with a certain somebody.
Okay.
Yes. So wear and tear, but it's good to be here.
Oh, now I see it. Now I understand. But we will have to talk about that because it's not sustainable to do that.
Exactly.
Your routine might have to change a bit.
Hey, God, I pay.
Yeah.
It's good to be here. Thank you for joining us on Hard Facts this afternoon. We are streaming live, so you can join us on Facebook and on YouTube. Go to Nigeria Info Abuja on either of the platforms, and you can be a part of the conversation.
Oh, yeah. And on the midweek special today, there's just so much to look at. First off, we're grateful for the Nigerian woman, or the modern one, who apparently have been released in Saudi Arabia. They were charged for smuggling drugs, but it's been established that it was not the case. I'm sure you followed on the woman, Dr. Majid. Saudi Arabia is a very strict country when it comes to drugs, and any suspicion of it can just get someone into hot water. But with the intervention of the government and all of that, they looked into their case properly, and good thing it will not be a death penalty after all for the Nigerians. Well, back home in Nigeria, there is just so much to look at and so much to talk about. Dangote held a press conference yesterday, and it just felt like he needed to talk with people. He needed to talk with Nigerians because Nupeng threatened a strike. DSS and the federal government waded in to avert any strike and cause Nigerians any headache. And afterward, Dangote had to call and address, see, I want to bring trucks. They are CNG, but they need to be driven by humans and not robots. So I don't understand how Nupeng is going to say workers are going to lose their jobs. They definitely will be driven by people. We pay these people so well. We pay them more than graduate, and 3 to 4 times more than the regular graduate in the country. And why would they talk about poor working condition? He also raised quite a number of issues as to what he's doing and saying he's not trying to monopolize the space. Anyone interested can go in and start refining. And then to top it up nicely, went into the case of Ajaokuta. I mean, that headline on a lot of papers today, like, Ajaokuta will never work. That's enough to stop in your tracks, like, hold up. It's not been working in a long time, but, the corner of your heart, you just hope that one day,
Against
this
hope.
Exactly.
Hope against hope.
This asset will rise again and work. I'm a little curious, Dr. Majid, to just get your take on it. First, before we get to the Ajaokuta part, the Dangote Nupeng face-off, how it was resolved. He's saying they can unionize, but it's not compulsory. You can't compel every one of them to be unions. Because it's a private business, they have the liberty to be excused from compulsory unionization. What do you think?
I mean, unionization in Nigeria is not compulsory. It's not mandatory. You can choose to unionize individually or as a group. You can also choose not to. And I've always maintained that the attempts by Nupeng to stampede Dangote refinery workers into their union was an overstretch of their mandate as a union and their influence within the organized labor movement. I believe it was not within their mandate to begin to push for workers. I'm not aware of any report at all that is out there, I'm not aware of any, that Dangote workers wanted to join Nupeng and Dangote is preventing them from doing so. I'm not aware. So it's only when, for instance, Dangote workers want to join Nupeng, which they are free to do, and Dangote, as the owner of the business, is preventing them from doing so, then Nupeng can step forward and fight for them. But in this case, I've not seen any report anywhere. I've not come across any information that suggests that Dangote workers want to join Nupeng and Dangote is preventing them from doing so. This must be stated as it is. So unionism is voluntary. You can choose to join, you can choose not to join. Now, talking about conditions of service and welfare, again, I don't know of any complaint by Dangote workers that there's any breach.
But something must have informed it. Nupeng would not on its own just decide to. There must have been a pocket of complaints.
Honestly, I'm not aware. No, really, I'm not. I've not heard anything at all on the side of the workers in Dangote refinery saying that maybe they are experiencing, I think, kind of unethical workplace conditions that might warrant them to want to now join Nupeng and seek protection and have the opportunity for collective bargaining with their employer. Such report does not exist, really. And for me, Dangote refinery and its affiliates appear to be very organized, at least from what we can see, in terms of corporate governance code is well entrenched. So honestly, Nupeng has no business going to Dangote to force its workers to unionize. That's on one hand. For me, the only reason I can adduce to this imbroglio is that if Dangote decides to go into the downstream sector, right now it's operating at the midstream, refinery, petrochemicals, and refinery. If it decides to go into the downstream, which is distribution now and marketing directly, with about 10,000 trucks, CNG trucks is planning to go into 4,000 CNG trucks.
Yes.
It means you have a large number of tanker drivers that are outside of Nupeng, which might whittle down its influence. So, for instance,
Nupeng's influence, that is.
So, if Nupeng tries to go on strike for any reason, and you have 4,000 tanker drivers that are not members of Nupeng, and they are still operating, the effect of Nupeng strike will be negligible.
Isn't that a good thing?
We are operating a free market enterprise. So, this must be balanced here and there. These are the benefits and the challenges that come with free market enterprise. We're no longer a strictly regulated sector in terms of oil and gas operations. So when the PIA came into effect, it allows everybody to operate freely. So it gives Dangote a lot of leverage, which is trying to leverage on now. It gives unions their own leverage too. It gives marketers their leverage. For instance, if you observe, Dangote has been struggling to prevent importation of products into this country since his father came on stream. It's been like an article of faith for him. Stop importation. He's been at loggerheads with the regulators who are still issuing licenses for importation. Now, again, that is an overstretch of his own entrepreneurial adventurism, if you like. That is, you can operate your refinery, but you cannot prevent others from even importing. And the regulators have made it clear, quite known. So marketers are still importing. So nobody can force it back from Dangote alone. Dangote too is not prevented from exporting his product. So everybody is playing as they like. So Dangote has the right to go into the downstream. If he feels that that's one way he can maximize profit, if that is one way he can actually beat the marketers to their game. So he's going to crash prices and supply the market directly at a rate that marketers might not be able to cope with free importation. It is his right. I mean, for me, it's either you either innovate or you fizzle out of the business. So there has to be ways and means that a compromise can be struck. But then even at that, Dangote has the right to do what he wants to do. All he needs to do is to get a license to operate in the downstream. NMPC, for instance, operates in the upstream through exploration, operates midstream. It has its own refineries, and it's actually in the downstream. It has its outlets everywhere. So Dangote is simply trying to reenact what NMPC has been all these years. And I don't see anything wrong with that, really. There's not anything wrong with importation of products, but Dangote is also producing.
Perhaps the challenge here and the threat, because it does seem like there's some sort of threat he's presenting, seeing as he's fighting on all fronts. He's fighting New Peng. Dapman too has come out to raise certain issues about distorted pricing and all of that. So it seems like he's fighting on all fronts. Could it be that, in comparison with NNPC, like you just mentioned, the challenge now is that not only is he privately owned, but that there have been talks about certain practices that he has adopted over time in the course of his doing business, even before he started playing in the petrol and refining space.
What kind of practices are we talking about here? You see, all of these conversations we're having have to do with something that are fundamentally maintained on this platform and on this subject matter. I do not think that any energy sector anywhere in the world should be deregulated the way Nigeria has regulated their own.
You've always maintained that. Yeah.
The reason is because some of these concerns can be properly addressed within a regulated framework. It's okay, you maintain your lane here, maintain your own lane there, that man, okay, you paying, all workers must unionize. That cannot happen under a regulated environment. All of these people signed up to the regulation.
All right.
When Dangote signed up to the regulation, he didn't envisage that importation will continue. But the regulation allows importation, allows local production. So importers are still importing. Dangote is not comfortable with that. Now, when the importers too, we are importing, they didn't know that Dangote will, someone of the college should go and look for money anywhere and buy trucks and go into distribution, go into the downstream. So if they want all of these things to be resolved, maybe they should pack themselves together. The Ministry of Petroleum and Justice put the PIA down and review it accordingly. And see whether we have to now go back to a regulated environment that kind of protects some of the critical sectors that have emerged over time. I understand the fears of that man. They have investments everywhere, petrol stations, tank farms, and all that. So what happens to these investments? We know. So again, he said that we'll go back to the round table and say, look, okay, can we now sit down and have a regulated environment and have certain restrictions imposed on all the critical players so that nobody runs the other out of the market? Otherwise, this is what happens when you have a free market that is competitive in nature, where everybody's trying to outdo each other. That is exactly what the PIA actually spells out, really.
Well, right now we haven't seen that level of competitiveness that will make it a bit more liberalized like we would love to, because it's still Dangote versus what we have with the federal government. The others who have licenses and all to have their refineries. It's still taking time. I don't know if it's going to take 20 years. Maybe not in the magnitude of Dangote refinery, because he has the largest this side of the world. Exactly. But hopefully that would see more of this refinery spring up and see how, that interplay would be when we have multiples private investors.
The world is watching Dangote refinery to see how far it can go with this. And if it survives, if it thrives, and Dangote makes a return on investment within the stipulated time frame, which makes his capital, should I say, the capital he has invested, if he realizes the capital with the profit that is supposed to realize within the time frame, which makes it a good investment. I'm sure that would have de-risked the environment enough for other people to follow his blueprint and improve on it.
But will they be able to even gain any kind of footing in it at all? Because accusations here by the Dapman and Co. say he's adopting pricing practices that distort competition, strain domestic businesses, and contradict its public claims of prioritizing Nigerian customers. Those were the words, the accusations.
These are issues that are neither here nor there. Again, it is not a regulated market. I'll tell you what they're trying to say. Dangote, for instance, sells to Dapman members.
Of course.
Sometimes at a particular price. And they accuse him of the fact that as soon as they sell their vessel out of the loading point, Dangote will crash the prices, which makes them suffer losses. Because, for instance, if you bought at, say, 800 per liter, and then Dangote is now selling, as soon as you loaded your vessel, he's now selling for 760 to tankers that are loading through its gantry. It means already you can't even sell that cargo because already the price has already dropped in the market. Now, if this is true, again, every business is a risk. It's willing buyer, willing seller. You didn't first come and buy. You went there to buy, and then you bought and decided to undercut you. That comes with, I call it the vagaries of a free market enterprise, particularly in the energy sector. And that is why it shouldn't have been as free as PIA wanted to make it.
Okay.
There should be regulation to prevent such things. Energy must be regulated. The pricing, the transaction has to be regulated to prevent all of these issues. But the status quo now, until PIA is amended, there is no such level of regulation.
All right.
And they all subscribe to it. You know, it was like an elephant. Somebody went head onto the tail and felt
This is the best way to go, yeah.
Somebody head down to the top and said, this life is not sweeter than this. Until they assembled the elephant and they realized that, this tusk would obstruct the position of this tail. So maybe they need to go back to the drawing board and get stakeholders to look at the PIA and now see where they now need to regulate. I have always maintained an important sector like oil and gas, energy, has to be regulated. If banking sector can be regulated, strictly regulated, if telecoms can be regulated, including pricing. Before you raise your price as a telecom operator, NCC must approve. Is that not so? Yeah. How on earth do you think that the energy sector can be regulated without creating the kind of crisis that is beginning to emerge now?
All right, while that conversation about regulation and piecing the elephants together is still ongoing, Dangote apparently is saying something that might sound like a harsh truth, or just maybe it's his own opinion that one shouldn't be taken all too seriously. And that's around the Ajaokuta Steel. It says it's like, wanting to use something archaic and employing modern technology on it, so that I don't mix up his words. He likened it to reviving the steel company, to comparing outdated technology with modern advancement. That there's no nation that you can build without a steel industry. And honestly, with us here, Ajaokuta will not work. We can keep deceiving ourselves and keep being passionate about it, but it is not possible. It's like you now. If you remember those vehicles we used to produce from Volkswagen, Igala in bracket. If you bring Igala now, is that what they used to call it back in the day?
That was a very good Igala.
Would you now compare it to the current Kia? No, things have changed, he said, and emphasized the need for adaptation in its rapidly evolving world. Do you share a sentiment to the state of Ajaokuta Steel at this point in time? Is it obsolete? Or is it something that we can get partners and find a way? Because the last Indian partners tried to balkanize it and remove part and do what they please with it. And we dragged this in court for a long time until this very moment. And at this point, Dr. Majid, it feels like even the government is overwhelmed as to what the next course of action is around Ajaokuta, so that we don't continue to throw money into a black hole. Can we salvage? Can it work? Is there hope? What's the next way forward?
Ajaokuta Steel plant is salvageable. Dangote is speaking from the point of view of a businessman. Profit and loss perspective. Commercial viability in terms of profit, like I've measured in Naira and Kobo. That's the perspective he's speaking from. Dangote has a limited knowledge of what is called a necessary, or what is called the bedrock of national industrialization. He's a trader, essentially. He's a businessman. You see, if you now see from the perspective of Dangote, you could say yes. No private sector investor can come to Ajaokuta and take it over as it is, because the way Ajaokuta was built, it was not built as a private sector driven enterprise. You see, Nigeria had a vision, just like India, Singapore, China, of course, most of Western Europe, and countries that were trying to develop. They had a vision that governments must invest in heavy industries that will serve as an enabler for small and medium-scale enterprises. For instance, Ajaokuta Steel plant is a behemoth. It was conceived to help private operators down to manufacture nail, wire gauge, and such sundry steel and allied products, right? But they also knew that it would be difficult for any individual at all to pull the resources together to construct that behemoth. It's almost impossible. So governments had to fill in the gap. It was the same thing that governments did by building refineries across the Middle East and other newly oil-producing countries, because they knew that government needed to support oil and gas as well as petrochemical and allied industries by building behemoths as refineries. Now, for these governments, these enterprises, these bedrocks of industrialization that Ajaokuta was conceived to be, are not to make profit in terms of Naira and Kobo. No. In some cases, they could actually make losses. But what that would have done for the economy generally is to give Nigeria steel security, which will now enable Nigeria to really go into heavy manufacturing. So it's like a parent providing for his children certain kind of enablers that he doesn't want to profit from directly, but that would enable the children now to now compete with their peers while he bears the loss. Governments all over the world must do this. I'll give you a critical example. Today, America is a leader, global leader, in information and communication technology. Globally, America is like a leading light. That became possible for two reasons. The American government developed internet as a facility, as a platform. It was government developed. It's government owned up to today. In addition to that, government also set up what was called NASA, the National Airspace Administration, where a lot of funding in billions of dollars over the years, more than half a century now, went into research and space exploration. So a combination of these two investments was what has enabled American startups to leverage on these advantages and give the world your Microsoft, your Google, just name it. Without these two investments, because no individual can actually put up a facility like NASA or create internet. You don't have the resources to do so. Only government can do this. This has enabled fundamentally America to take the lead. Other countries follow suit immediately. So when we were young, you hear countries going to space, launching rockets, and all. We thought they were just wasting their time. No, they were not wasting their time. They were in a race to control global information system for the future. Fine. So if you look at such other countries like China, like Russia, they all follow US closely in this regard. All of this was undertaken by the government. So in essence, without internet, there won't be Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. Without internet, there won't be Google. There won't be all of these
Any
things
of the
today
platforms that we have,
And you know how much it's bringing to America today? As you're in Nigeria, you're using your Twitter, you're using all of that. You're paying some companies that are American-owned, and they're paying taxes to your government from your own revenue that you have given them. Now, that was how things like Ajaokuta were created. So that dream was truncated because along the line, the Nigerian government changed its philosophy now from an economy that should be guided and planned, it's called planned economy, by the state as a developing economy. And we hopped onto the ship of entrepreneurial capitalism as you see in the West. So from that point in time, we felt, I wish I always take money building Ajaokuta. I wish to bring in the revenue. Why not just privatize it? Let's give it out to private sector. Unfortunately, each time they try to do that, the people that come to Ajaokuta know that this is not something they can run. Ajaokuta is an entire city, it's an entire town. Ajaokuta is almost the size of central area and adjoining districts put together, with massive road infrastructure, bridges, railways, power plants, housing estates in hundreds, schools, hospitals, everything. It's an entire city. The steel plant itself is one of the first skyscrapers in North Central. It's in Ajaokuta, which is like the corporate office of Ajaokuta Steel Company. It's a behemoth. It's like a government that was serious that started this, but the government became very unserious later. They couldn't see it through. Monies that we have voted for were embezzled by successive governments, beginning especially from the Abacha government. Now, when we got to that situation, Abacha came in 1999, and there was this thinking across board, privatization. So we started privatizing our national airlines. Ajaokuta Steel was started privatization, Alaja Steel, Katsina Rolling Mill, Oshobo Rolling Mill, Aluminum Spectre Company, Atikota Basi, all of these heavy industries that we are supposed to enable manufacturing and real economic development, we are slated for privatization. And they all went wrong at the end of the day. Only very few succeeded.
But what wasn't the idea to correct some of the anomalies in privatizing them? Because they were not functional per se.
Government should have become serious. You see, you can't quarrel with your tools and throw them away. You make them work. Government should have simply realized it was corruption, mismanagement that was at the root of these problems. Now, what you need to do was to correct that immediately. Do you know that up in Europe, why in Nigeria talking about privatization in Europe today? What is the norm is nationalization. As a matter of fact, the steel plant of the British, it was formerly owned by the British government, the national steel plant in UK. It was now later privatized to the Chinese. Do you know that recently there was a national debate in the parliament, in the UK parliament, for the nationalization of the steel company. It was adopted. People that listen to this program are the ones who called me to draw my attention to say, go and check. Oh. In UK, they are now trying to nationalize their steel company because they suddenly realized that, hey, we need this as national steel security. So, for instance, what we need to do for Ajaokuta now is to have a change of mindset. I remember when a lot of people were agitating for Ajaokuta to be complete, I said, until government has a change of mindset, until government decides today that Ajaokuta will serve the purpose of being the bedrock of heavy industrialization in Nigeria.
Feel that we're there, where government is thinking in that direction, because I'm even a little lost as to where we stand at this moment.
We're not there.
Concerning Ajaokuta.
We want to even privatize more companies now. We're not there. And I'm saying in Europe, as late as 2022 here, Germany and some other European countries carried out nationalization of hitherto privatized companies. That is even the world is heading towards nationalization, where they realize that these companies are better managed by the state for the benefit of everybody.
But Dr. Majid,
yes,
honest to God,
yes,
can the government of Nigeria manage Ajaokuta Steel to
yes.
a point of productivity? Because Dangote is also talking about how obsolete some things are dated, to saying it's going to call for some heavy investment.
The oldest steel plant in the world was constructed in 1910, and it worked for half a century. Ajaokuta was only started in 1979.
Because I was going to go there, I was like, it hasn't worked in.
There are older steel plants than Ajaokuta in India, in Eastern Europe, that are still functioning.
So it's not a case of can they, it's more a case of are they interested in it?
They have done auditing of. They have come up with that. Steel. Ajaokuta is brand new. No, they built it to 98%, and nothing has been done with it.
It hasn't produced.
Wear and tear can also kick in. When nothing is happening, decay can happen and erosion
can be refurbished. Dangote refinery that started the other day had a major incident that got it back to manufacturers to bring the original manufacturers to come and replace certain parts there. A less than 10-year-old refinery.
My fear, honestly, is it shouldn't be an excuse to become another conduit for just throwing so much money and then we don't get the result at the end of the day.
See, this is the argument. By that constitution, 1999 constitution, that they swear to uphold its tenets, government cannot carry any entity and make it a conduit. I'm thinking of what is supposed to be, and as media, we must continue to tell government that you can no longer continue to be useless in government. Government means God on earth. God. That's why, for instance, when somebody was killed in the US recently, within 48 hours, the eyes of God picked at the person, government.
So
government must be serious. You know what I'm saying is, this is tied to our poverty. This is tied to our lack of prosperity.
Dr. Majid, so this is the way I see it.
Yes.
It's been, 20 years at the very least since it was set up. I think completion was in the...
It started in 1979.
1979. It was completed in the early 1990s.
To 98%.
Yes, to 98%. Since then...
Before it don't fall apart, Abata came in at the same time and abandoned it.
So between that time and now, monies have gone in. For
monies have not gone in.
Well, it's been an arbitration.
What has gone into Ajaokuta is they have maintained some minimal presence of staffs to keep the place alive. No capital component of spending has gone to Ajaokuta since 1989, when Babangida completed the last phase of it. No money has been spent on Ajaokuta.
So for a company that is moribund, what are they paying staff to do? Because you're talking to the tune of billions, as at the last report that I saw.
Going, in case one, like for them, I want to privatize. So if you cannot privatize something that is completely buried, so you keep it going. They do some skeletal works there. So that somebody wants to buy, for instance, now, Dangote wants to buy, it's a floating concern that you can simply go and now take over. That is the basis for having some skeletal, but they're not operating at the full capacity, so they have very, very few staffs there. Security mostly, technical staffs that are kind of, the place is well maintained.
Okay.
No, what do you call it? No vandalism of his facilities. Yeah. No, it's well maintained.
The grasses are not overgrown and forest and all of that.
They regularly maintain the place.
Okay.
Because, of course, this place is just almost like my hometown anyway. What I'm saying in essence is, Ajaokuta is a signpost of the failure of the state. That vision that Nigeria had in the 70s, like other developing countries that are now developed and are now first world countries, was achieved by this, they call it strategic industrial investment. Strategic. This industries are strategic for manufacturing and industrialization. Today, Nigeria is not industrialized. Today, Nigeria is not anywhere in the manufacturing world. It is because you don't have these enablers. Today, Nigeria does not manufacture cars in reality. We assemble cars. The reason China has become manufacturing power in the world today is because steel plants were developed by the government. The same thing with India. The same thing with South Korea. The same thing with any of the developing countries you see. Government invested heavily in this as enablers. Nigeria couldn't have been different.
All right. Just before we get to the next story, let's look at some of the comments here. Chief Anslem Amunike from Kuchingoro says, please, Dangote has every right to enter the downstream. If Dangote decides to go from upstream, midstream to downstream, it's called forward integration in business. Let me repeat. If Dangote decides to go downstream, it is forward integration. It's like when a farmer decides to open a kiosk and sell his goods cheaper in the open market without using middlemen. So if Dangote eventually forward integrate into having fuel stations and price of petrol drops because it won't use middlemen, Chief Anslem welcomes that absolutely. Bless you, Dr. Majid. To me, I feel Nupeng is just doing what they are doing just for their own personal interest, not for the interest of the common man. Haruna from New Caro sent that one in. On Dangote drivers unionizing or joining Nupeng, your guest said he has not heard the Dangote drivers had ever complained about condition of service. Is Dr. Majid saying that the way we have high rate of unemployment in the country and the caliber of Dangote, any staff would have the guts to complain openly about poor condition of service? I bet if no staff will attempt or even attempt to openly complain of poor working conditions. Dr. Majid should know that a lot of Nigerians and the federal government depend on his analysis and critique on the issue to adjust their policies. That being said, we expect him to be as objective as he can. What part of it do you have? Okay. However, I know that in research, it's a tall order for many people to be as objective as it can. We need him to be okay because our country is lagging behind in so many developmental issues. Having said that, I give Dr. Majid kudos for his in-depth analysis. Social engineer, comrade of Fodu. All right. Your grouse is the fact that Dr. Majid said he hasn't heard of complaint because he has not heard of any complaint actually. If they're not openly complaining, it's not a magician.
You said there is no job available. It means that definitely they appreciate what they are getting from Dangote. And they're not complaining. Is there another company that is actually affiliated to Nupeng but doing better than Dangote? I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware. It's a matter of I do not know. There's nothing in the media. We had to do news analysis.
Yeah.
That no newspaper has reported. That's an exclusive. To say, okay, we interviewed some Dangote staff under anonymity.
Yeah.
See what they say. I've not read it.
Indeed.
I can't begin to now say or impugn a reason or justification for something that
Isn't there?
and it's not in the public space.
All right then.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, union is needed in most of these organizations. In fact, most of the staff in the Chinese company in Nigeria are not part of the union, and that is why their working condition is poor. Imagine a Chinese person can wake up and ask you not to come to work again. That's it. I so much appreciate Dangote Group, but they need to allow union in that organization to protect the workers' interests. Or the union in Nigeria is all about personal enrichment. Ududadi Abiodun sent that one in. Hard facts on point. Maurice and Wuse too. We see you. Do we have comment on Facebook to be read?
No, just not a lot. Really, just people checking in to say hello. Lucas Almeida says good afternoon, Kim. Simon Paul Abba also saying hello to everyone in the house. Says he's watching from Kaduna State. Stephen Trust Dosu also saying hello.
We see you, Haruna, and famous Cassie Baby on YouTube. Haruna said, I feel Dangote is not trying to monopolize the sector, rather trying to help the government after failing the citizen with forced refinery turnaround that isn't working every single year. Same story, Haruna from New Caro says. All right, so tomorrow the 18th just might be a new turn for Rivers State. The president had to cut short his visit by, is it 4 days? It was meant to be 14 working days. Or 14 working days, right? But he came in earlier than planned.
Yeah.
And, the speculation is rife with the talk about, he has to do a national broadcast. He has to address us and call off the state of emergency. Hopeful that there will be no extension and all of that. But it is what it is. And the big question is what to expect. Somi, maybe you'd give us a bit more detailed stuff.
The sole administrator of Rivers State, at least for today. Today's last day. Vice Admiral Ibo Kete Abbas, retired, has said his administration is leaving behind a legacy of transparency, discipline, and reform following the launch of the International Public Sector Accounting Standard, IPSAS, and new revenue codes for the state. There was an unveiling at the Government House, Port Harcourt, marking the conclusion of fiscal reforms designed to align River State's financial management with international best practices. He said this initiative, one of the many things that he's leaving behind as his legacy, was introduced to tackle weaknesses in the state's revenue system, which he noted had suffered from leakages and imprecise computation. This reform, he said, will usher in transparency, accountability, and efficiency, as every transaction will be traceable, every payment verifiable, and every process auditable in real time. He says, though my time here was short, I've left behind a legacy of courage and discipline and reform, just like he said.
That's him giving himself a pat on the back for a job well done. It's there for Nigerians to assess his performance as military administrator. I think it doesn't answer really to the people, it answers to the person who imposed him on the state at that point.
Was he a military administrator? Administrator.
Administrator. I beg your pardon. Administrator. I don't know, for 1 second, the military just came out of nowhere. It felt that way, though, because the democratic government was interrupted, and it just felt that way.
Yes.
But then also, on the other side, PDP are telling Fubara, as you return in peace, do not be swayed by any promises coming from the APC, because already
PDP
speculation.
wants Fubara to go back for another suspension.
The space is saturated with all kinds of stories of Fubara will move to APC. that is the only way he can breathe easy in that office until the end of his tenure.
If you have been beaten and humiliated like this, is there anything they will tell you that you will not do?
He must be humbled at this point in time.
Well, it's just, we're laughing at this matter, but it's a tragedy of what we call democracy here. I'm one of those who believe strongly that the president has no power to remove an elected governor under the guise of a state of emergency. And the state of emergency that was taken was unnecessary. It's an abuse of that provision that talks about state of emergency.
So no impact whatsoever?
What was happening in Rivers before the state of emergency? What happened?
We'll find out when he returns. We'll see if the tension continues to build or it's been doused permanently.
Political tension. That does not amount to insecurity on the magnitude that you now remove or even declare state of emergency. I believe it is a settled matter. When Jonathan himself was guided and advised appropriately by Jonathan in general, Mama Beladoke, to say, look,
don't do it that way.
You can declare state of emergency without removing elected structure. The Constitution does not envisage that. Obasanjo did it, it was an error. Obasanjo simply copied from the 1960, the First Republic playbook, but it was an error. Unfortunately, we saw a return to that era. Particularly in a situation where there was no basis for it, absolutely no basis. Even though Fubara himself didn't kind of help matters. Only God knew what he wanted to do. He was neither here, neither there. He was simply nowhere. But even at that, what would have been most democratic and constitutional to have been done was for the assembly to impeach Fubara. I hear this narrative that he was safe from impeachment. You can't save somebody from a process that if it follows through legally, is valid by the Constitution. True and illegal, I still believe that this is illegal. Yes, I believe so. And when politicians are quarreling, they should spare us the constitutional infringement of this scale.
Well, but apparently no one is interested in challenging it in court.
Some people got went to court. I don't know how far the case has got in the Supreme Court. They did. But Supreme Court has not had the case as we speak. Wow. Whether they will do the case midway, I do not even know. But unfortunately, this shouldn't have happened. We have places in this country today where we need state of emergency. It has not been declared. We need state of emergency in bandit, ravaged, northwest.
Zamfara, Katsina, for example.
These are places you declare